What is the craziest / most inappropriate thing a teacher has said to you? NSFW. Preferably not too depressing. I've told this story before and posted it on a couple of those lame AFML kinda sites years ago, but it fits here too. Once in my physics class, the male teacher's phone goes off with a very girly pop ringtone. Some smartass in the front of the room goes, "Why don't you change your ringtone?" And the teacher responds, "Why don't you tell your mom to stop calling me?" This teacher was a goldmine of stuff like this. "Hey Mr. Teacher, what's the hardest drug you've ever done?" Without even lifting his head from writing at his desk, shrooms. Had an art teacher I'm pretty sure smoked on the regular. He would sequester himself in his office with the door locked and windows covered in art magazine pages. There was this little hole you could see through, and he was just not in there. Even after you saw him go in there a minute before, he'd sometimes disappear. His private storage room was inside the office with its own door. Great teacher though. Very free flow. Had a chemistry teacher with a similar setup chemical supply closet. One day we all came into class to find it empty for around 5 minutes. Chemical teacher walks out with his eyes obviously very red and a dazed look on his face. Informs us that he caught a whiff of hydrofluoric acid in the chemical closet and that he's cancelling today's lab. He then rambled on about orbital shells for the rest of the class without pulling out any notes, slid a shower projector, and told a bunch of stories about his college years. I went to the same teacher's house one time to drop off an overdue paper and heard really rough coughing before he came to the door, grabbed my paper, and closed the door again. In history class in 11th grade, our teacher showed a painting of the Virgin Mary with the baby Jesus. One of the more popular girls in school said, "EWW, that baby has boobs." He was halfway across the room, stops, walks over to her and says, "Jealous?" Everyone busts out laughing. The next day we had all forgot about it, and then he starts off the class by bringing it up in order to apologize to her, and just ends up reminding us about it all over again. She said later that she wasn't embarrassed the first time, but his apology made it much worse. "I'm sorry I acknowledged the fact that your breasts are small." My 7th grade shop class teacher, after watching me try to make a noose out of rope, yelled at me and taught me how to tie an actual noose. He then went on to explain to me that it was £10 for every loop around the rope and make sure it's enough to hold your weight. I still to this day remember the proper way to tie a noose. GG shop teacher. Teaches you how to tie a noose so that you don't peep up the last thing you'll ever do in life. Yeah. It's a real tragedy he was so young. Peeping beautiful work on the noose, though. I go to a private all-girls school. In theology class last week, 2 of my friends were sitting on a heater to try to warm up, and our 80-year-old teacher told them to stop because it would dry out their vaginas. 80-year-old teacher would know about that. During a random drug check in my high school a few years ago, when the police brought dogs in, my US history teacher gleefully said, "Hope you left your weed at home." Kids, I know I did. Maybe he didn't. A couple years ago, this crazy guy who used to go to my school ran down the halls on the morning of a dog day screaming something along the lines of, "Hide yeah weed. Hide yeah coke. Hide yeah acid. The dogs are common." He ended up saving everyone's stashes that day and got suspended. He ended transferring to another school, and then he got his girlfriend pregnant, and they moved to Canada together. He had a pet deer. My biology teacher told us, "Make sure you guys look up the homework after you are all finished with your porn." You never are finished with porn. Just taking a break. This one's not nearly as wildly inappropriate as the others, but still something a teacher shouldn't say. Last year in upper secondary school, and the class is about to take the final exam in the philosophy course. In Sweden, at the time, there were only 3 available grades: G-Pass, VG Passed in Style, and MVG Outstanding. And in order to make the test more interesting, our teacher had a plan. Everyone gathered in the classroom and the students aiming for G or VG was told to stay in the room and take the written exam, which couldn't grant a grade higher than VG, even if every answer was spot on correct. The students who were aiming for MVG were to join the teacher in a nearby room for an oral exam, a group discussion, if you will, to properly assess those aiming for higher grades. Fair enough. I wanted that higher grade, so me and 5 to 6 others went with the teacher. Halfway to the next room, one of the girls in the group noticed that the students left to take the written exam had no supervision, since the teacher was walking with us to the other room. And no other teacher was in there. So, are you just gonna leave them unattended? She asks. Yup. Don't you think they're gonna cheat? And without missing a beat, our teacher drops the bomb. Come on. It's the G and VG students. You could give them a month in there. What the f*** are they gonna accomplish? I see his logic. They can cheat all they want. They won't get any better than to pass in style. Oh yes. That's spot on what he meant. It's not really a good attitude for a teacher, and he had some other interesting ideas. Let's just leave it at that, but the reasoning is clear. I was in gym class and we were playing baseball. While I was running between bases, a guy threw the ball to the base I was running to, but missed and the ball smashed into my butt cheek. At the end of class my teacher walked by and said, "At least you can say you've been nailed in the ass now." We had a physics lab about static electricity which involved rubbing fur/silk on various objects, black plastic rods, clear plastic rods, and steel balls to name a few. Arta, who has a Scottish accent, kept making jokes about how we weren't rubbing the rods properly, vigorously enough, and other jokes in that genre. Best lab ever. I'm pretty sure it's impossible to do that lab in high school without the inevitable boner jokes and stupid giggles from all the male students. If more girls had tits like yours, I'd never retire. Once my app history teacher told the class that he and his wife are really trying for a baby. So if any of us feel like having unprotected sex on prom night, to just do it and give the kid to him. He actually said one girl's name in particular too. My favorite teacher ever assigned us to go see a movie. He jokingly stated, "If you take your grandmother with you, I'll give you extra credit." To which one of the stereotypical morbid gothic kid in class replied, "My grandma is dead." My teacher's response, "Then I'll give you double extra credit." Not really all that inappropriate, but still to this day the funniest thing I've ever heard a teacher say. Now I'm picturing a goth kid sitting in a theater with his grandmother's urn in his lap. But they stop you from taking food into the theater. Not exactly a comment that a teacher made, but one of the support teachers at my school told me and my friend that if we looked at the sky and pretended to shake salt into our mouth, that we could actually taste it. Me and my friend, being naive at the time, proceeded to act out this motion of looking to the sky and shaking salt into our mouths. It took the support teacher breaking into a laughing fit for us to realize what the action really represented. He then took out a piece of paper and added us to his tally of kids that had fallen for his joke. Indian stats professor with heavy accent describing basic probability. Say you flip coin and you get head. You do more experimenting and get more head. You get head a few more time and then you finally get some tail. Why is everyone laughing? Hardness is a girl's best friend. Because diamonds have a hardness of 10. What were you thinking? Same day we learned about cleavage and streaking. Minerals are fun. In my college geology class, my class couldn't stop giggling at blue schist faces during lecture. It's not much, but for once I'm relevant. I tried to give my hot English teacher a hug in high school after passing a test, and she jokingly pushed me aside, winked at me, and said, "Not till you're 18. 8th grade science teacher made us watch a Discovery documentary on lions. Consistently rewound the segment of lions mating, and loudly proclaimed, "Put this into your mind. Edit. A word." Well, clearly it worked. College finance class. The professor asked why the class was always quiet and disengaged. One girl responded, This subject is just so dry. The professor responded, well, how can I make it moist? Personal finance always makes me moist. MMM. You can't be president because you're Catholic. I was 7. Are you JFK? Yeah, that didn't really end well. Shots fired. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Lee Harvey Oswald.